What do you guys think would be the sort of essential things a DP needs to know now, you know, have in their toolbox to be successful?
I am old school, and when we were writing the mission statement for the cinematography, first of all, we talked about the ethics of collaboration, then we talked about finding your core values, have something deep to express, I mean, you know, lofty stuff. And then when it got to the craft, we said, to be absolutely adept at the craft, both classic and cutting edge. So I'm one of those people, in our class, you'll learn to use a gearhead. You know, you'll learn all the classic things. You'll learn how the hard light artist did it and all that. At the same time that you're learning how to get into the menus of the EX3 and clamp the blacks down.
So you're loving, you know, affordable, you know, we call them prosumer, but they're more than that, like the EX3. They're professional cameras, but in a cheap body. Well, you're loving those, but you basically were taught on film.
In the lab that I teach, there's a film project going and a video project going simultaneously. We look at film, we look at 16, we look at 35, we look at digital. We treat them the same. We believe you should learn control lab aim density, very obscure things. You can pick your printer light and you know where the curves are. All that didactic, hardcore stuff. Are you at the same time as you're piddling around with the menus and getting cool looks? I mean, I believe both at the same time.
Bob, are you saying though that you need to know? I mean, you've shot film, you've shot film, you've shot film. The initial film I've ever shot is Super 8. Now, I have no experience with film. Do you think that you need that experience of film to have a better understanding of stuff?
I gotta say, and this is blasphemy, I gotta tell you, most of the ASC people, when we did this big camera assessment test, they thought you had to light digital different from film. It blew their mind when they realized all but the red camera, you could light the same contrast ratio as film, and basically it's going to look the same.
Yeah.
Let me just say, let me back up why I'm making a statement. When we tested 7 444 digital cameras against 5219 and other stocks, this is the Producers Guild, the American Society of Cinematographers.
Yeah.
We had 7 or so different scenes. We had an early morning scene with gasoline jets. We had a day interior, night interior. My set was a 150-watt clear light bulb with a filament hanging against, in the background you saw a window, but it wasn't really a window, it was a light box so we could keep it constant.
Gotcha.
You dimmed up from 0 volts to 150, a very nice shot with all the glass and everything, semi-wide, 35 millimeter lens on the big chip, 14 on the other, all Zeiss lenses. As it got close to 110 volts, the actor would move into the same spot.
Yeah.
He would be 4 stops overexposed incident light. That means 5 stops overexposed normal flesh tones, God only knows what with the speculars and the white teeth. So he was way off high. He would dolly back diagonally, seeing the rest of the room, keeping the light bulb. The actor would move to a spot in the middle of the room where he was 1 stop down incident, which means 50 IRE, which means 18% gray, which means right in the middle of the scale. We'd time to that. In the background, under the window, were all sorts of dark boxes and things. There were 4 stops under, the only light being that light bulb. So we had a huge...
So you went from 4 stops under to how many stops over?
To 4 stops over incident.
Incident. Right.
But the reflected with dark objects and white faces was way beyond an 8-stop range.
Wow.
And the idea was we wanted to test challenging enough so that you could see where the cameras fell off.
Yeah.
Film, as you can imagine, was very good. At least one of the cameras, Panasonic 3700, saw considerably better detail in the shadows.
Really?
That was on Film Rec 600, and I don't know if the DRS or whatever they call it.
That's the P2 Vericam, the 3700.
It's a P2 Vericam and had extraordinarily shadow detail. The only thing not on a logarithmic curve. I mean, just some really interesting things. The highlight detail was pretty good in most of the cameras. There were flares and aberrations off this bare filament, you know, a few inches away from the lens, different things like that, including on film. There was a red thing off that. But the red, in this case, had, on that test, far less latitude than anything else. The Viper was not great. Everything else was pretty good at it, considering how difficult the test was. Really? Now, red sample reel is beautiful. And never am I saying that they will not do beautiful work. You can't get good, beautiful work out of the red. I believe you can. But I do believe you have to work a little harder for it. I do believe you need that it's range of exposures. You can't be quite as wild and woolly as you can with some other cameras.
But the end result, I mean, I had no idea that District 9 was red until you told me today, and I couldn't tell, you know.
Yeah, that's been a big thing on the internet too, as far as guys going on and finding out. I had a little thing where I put some behind-the-scenes shots up on Red User. And yeah, I mean, everybody was sort of like, holy smokes, I'm trying to
You've done a major, successful, gorgeous-looking major film on the Red. I didn't know it was on the Red either. Yeah, I haven't seen that. Yeah. So your experience is much better than mine. I'd much rather hear your opinion.
But your look lends itself to what that camera's capable of.
Anyway. Honestly, I was really freaked out about shooting District 9 on the Red at first.
Was this, you've used it before in commercials though, hadn't you?
No.
This is your first time completely with the Red?
And
so not only is it your first time, you're doing an actual feature film.
Yeah, and not only that, is when it was all theoretical discussion, I said, well, surely if we're going to go down that road, I'm going to have like 4 weeks of testing and all this stuff, right? And I went down to Los Angeles, I met with Jared, and I ran around with the camera, and I had sort of just really like a test drive, I would call it, not a proper test period at all. And then all of a sudden, that was the camera that we were shooting.
What would you have preferred, or what was your first choice before that?
I kind of, you know, I was joking around. I was talking to one of the producers about possibly shooting it on 16. You know,
16,
16, yeah, yeah. But
well, it had a documentary.
Would it be because you wanted it grainy or because it was a budget?
No, to me it was the grain, and it was all handheld. Yeah. So it was the feel of it. The
would have lent itself to 16 very well.
I liked it. I sort of felt that myself. But Neil Blomkamp, the director of District 9, is like, I guess you could call him like a video generation guy, where he came up with on the I want to say it's a Canon XL1. How old? Do you guys remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Neil is 29. He's 29. Yeah, 29. Yeah. So yeah, so his first thing, he used to run around with an XL1 or maybe an XL2. I can't remember. Yeah, but anyway, that was his thing, right? That was how he started. And the other thing was a big factor in that film was that we knew that at any point, any shot, no matter what it was, if it was an insert, if it was an establishing shot, anything had the potential to become a vis effects shot. We just simply didn't.
That's where I thought you made your choice.
Yeah, well, and that was the thing. That was a big factor in that, right? The F-35 wasn't out yet.
What about Terminus? Was that in?
Terminus was DVX.
That was DVX.
Yeah, which is one of my favorite little cameras. I love that thing.
DVX 100?
DVX 100.
Even I got one of those.
Yeah, well, I sold one. I sold mine, and then I just sold my HVX. And I was telling Philip, I'm like, as soon as I sold it, I'm like,
the DVX, you have to pay money to buy those secondhand still. They're not cheap.
They're great cameras. Yeah, they just feel. They feel nice. Technically, they're, you know what I mean, they're a little bit noisy. They're not true.
I bought one. I must have liked it. But to me, the EX3, I mean, I have such a soft spot for that. I love
different look, different feel, a little bit colder myself, but I love it. I've got an EX1.
Most of my career is 35mm film. So the EX3 resonates for me, and it's hard for me to do. You know, I mean, it's hard for me to get quite as funky as this contemporary. You know, I'm still thinking big screen. You know.
Right, of course. Guys, this was a great film, fellas. Thank you very much for showing up.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
What are you doing here?
This is for taking my show. And you, Bloom, that's for calling me a pussy.
Pussy. That was fun.
That was fun.